Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Master That English, where we understand, analyze, and interpret the important texts and concepts that may be part of your English curriculum. Our topic for today is a poem written by the Victorian poet Alfred Tennyson, and the name of the poem is Ulysses. So, what are we waiting for? Get your pens and notepads ready because here we go. Is there an age to retire? Should we surrender our roles and responsibilities when we grow old? In this particular poem, Tennyson describes the beauty of the undying passion and zeal an individual possesses, in spite of knowing that the age, that the wearing of the body often reduces the stamina externally. But in honesty, it is the inner drive and passion that can lead you to myriads of win and continuity even when your time is up. In the very starting of the poem, we notice that the speaker has a deep discontentment with the surrounding domain that he has been offered with. He doesn't seem to be in tune with the environment. And there is a level of resignation that he wants to experience, a, a dissociation that his mind is experiencing in this very environment. Who is this speaker? And why is he showing his discontentment? Where is his true passion? Is he going to tell us about this in this poem? Let's experience this sorrow in the very first lines. It little profits that an idle king by this still heath, among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I mete and dole unequal laws onto a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and not me. As a reader, when we read these very lines, no, not me, we are often leading to the direction where we want to know more about this character. We want to know his history. And in order to do that, we have to go way back to the Greek legend written by the famous poet Homer, in which this character features in nearly two epics, where the first is Iliad and the second is Odyssey. Even though in the first part, Ulysses has a minor role. But what we can feature in the very first part about Ulysses is that he's a man of intellect. He is witty and he knows exactly how to get things done by the use of his intellect. It was he who devised the beautiful strategic move of having a Trojan horse where all the members of his army disguised themselves under the guise of that Trojan horse and were able to enter the enemy lines without any problem. It was this horse that made the victory a grand success. They had been waiting for 10 years to get inside the province of the enemy walls. But it was only after the Trojan War that they would devise a win for themselves. And the second part is completely dedicated to this Greek character, where Odyssey describes a grand journey, a journey for the next 10 years, where Ulysses would have to travel throughout the sea course and spend a year time of 10 years to go back to his province. Usually, sea voyages are filled with adventures, mishaps, tragedies, unknown events that you have to be mentally prepared to cope with. Nothing comes easy in the sea. Throughout the course of history, people have experienced a lot of mishaps and unwanted events through the course. And so did our Greek hero did. But what is important about adventure is that it is not about the unexpected events, but it is the inner force and drive that you have within you that makes you mentally prepared for all of them. This drive, this zeal, this enthusiasm, never escaped Ulysses' heart. This is the reason why he almost feels a sense of stagnation in the stable land, where the sea is adventurous, unexpected, it is beyond an horizon. The land seems to be resonating a sense of resignation to things, resignation to social customs that every individual has to abide by. You can see through the descriptions. He is old, his queen is old. Everybody has to surrender to this very notion of civilization on land. And we have to also accept and acknowledge people for how they represent their belief system. But in the sea, it is nothing based on the ways of the world. It is what you perceive your aim and aspirations to be. That is what Ulysses was able to explore. In similar ways, you can say that even Tennyson explored a similar horizon in literature that the civilized world was not providing him. It was through poetry, during this time, Tennyson was able to express his inner feelings about the loss he had experienced in his personal life as well. Poetry was definitely an outlet to express things more melodiously and with utmost flow and melody. This work is considered to be a significant work of the timeline when it was written, that is 1833. He was definitely burdened by a lot of moral responsibilities in terms of his family obligations. But what he really cared about was the inner spirit and drive to write and express things that were unconventional. To a certain level, he was trying to be inspired by his predecessors that were writing during the Romantic Age. Poets like Keats, Byron, who also believed in the spirit of adventure, exploration, where poets like Keats exploded in the rich, vast literature that Greeks had to offer to him. Poets like Byron and P.B. Shelley exploded through travel and exploration. Everyone had a share to experience the vast array and ways in which they could experiment and write about things that could inspire the civilization to come up with unconventional ideas. Tennyson believed in the similar belief system, which is why he wrote this poem in the first place. It is that age is not a factor to escape your inner desires. We should always try to take over our very spirit of idea and innovation. Just because industrial age was coming in the forefront doesn't mean that poetry has to be on the sideline now. We can explore and we can experiment new ideas and unconventional theories about ways of expressing things in a new format. Just like the poets like T.S. Eliot said, try the touchstone method, touch the old and find a new gold. So, this is why literature is important, poetry is important, a spirit of passion and zeal is important when you want to explore new things in life. That brings us to the next question, that is the style with which Tennyson wrote this poem. How does it add value to this poem? How is he able to convey this meaning of undying passion and zeal within yourself? How do we come up with this thought and perspective clearly? We come across this by his beautiful use of the style blank verse. And most importantly, this very stroke of meter has been used with the technique of dramatic monologue, which is when the speaker is only speaking in a single tone. There is no external involvement, there are no other people involved in the discourse. It's a dialogic form of just giving a monologue where you're getting to understand the inner thought process of the person. A similar way in which in YouTube today people want to talk about what they're feeling, they're very expressive, they like to share things. So the lens is now being captured by the poetry over here, where the poet is expressing this sorrow, this sadness of feeling almost alienated in his very environment, the environment that is ready with the roles and responsibilities that this old king has to now serve. But is he mentally prepared for it? Can a person of the adventure living in this very world of escapade and camaraderie, can he really think of abiding by the monotone and the dread of conventional laws? Can he really do that? Tennyson has beautifully represented this with the musical effect of iambic pentameter throughout the course of the poem. And you will notice that this very spirit is echoed throughout the poem. That is what adds depth to it, this unconventional use of meter. Because writing with this meter, that is the iambic pentameter, is something that Elizabethans would do when they would write a sonnet. And let me tell you that this is not an easy form of writing because you have to match the beat. It is like a drum stroke of beats that you have to have a coherence with. You have to understand the rhythm with which you are presenting and using words. And that is what this poet is really able to do for the speaker here, who is a Greek legend in the Greek literature. Now, let us understand why does he use the word idle king in the first line. The reason why he uses this is because Ulysses here is definitely reflecting about the 10 years that he has spent. If we count it all together, these are past 20 years. 10 years in the Trojan War and 10 years of his adventure while coming back to his kingdom, Ithaca. This reference is very important because this island, Ithaca, now doesn't seem to be a land of growth and prosperity for him. This does not serve a reflection of the old for him. That was always unknown, it was rare, unconventional. Now he uses everything as bare, rocky. That itself shows no sign of luster, greenery. Everything seems to lack depth according to him. In fact, in this very environment, everything that is coming under its influence seems to have lost its life. This can be seen by the way in which he is describing his own wife, Penelope, who now he calls is just as old as him. There is no level of grace or vitality, even when you grow old. There is a certain level of grace that we all can have, even with those gray hair and wrinkled face. The reason why the poet or the speaker is talking in this manner is because he does not see anything unconventional in this environment. Everything seems to be almost in a slow paced decorum. And this slow pace has made people more self centered. All they care about is hoarding and making their life comfortable as possible. Whereas, when we speak of adventure, you have to be out of your comfort zone. You cannot think that the ship is going to sail without having to put an effort in making that voyage more progressive. But the people here do not wish to do anything. In fact, they are like parasites. They want to feed on other people. That is the reason why the poet describes these people, these natives, as savage race. He does not see a level of interest, enthusiasm, or discourse of engagement in them. All they are feeding on is the idea of living the life in the best way possible. So they want to accumulate things. That is what hoarding actually represents. They just want to sleep because sleep is the only escape with which they can imagine bright and futuristic things for themselves. They just want to feed because by eating, they ensure that their sustenance is comfortable. Whereas in adventure, you are not feeding on the notion of food is going to come. Even for that, you need to fish. You need to find a source of living. by putting an effort to it. But here, people do not follow this rule. And because there is a clash of beliefs, the speaker does not feel very connected with this very contrasting behavior that he is getting to see in his very people, in his land, Ithaca. Now, it is important for us to understand why Ulysses finds himself very different from the countrymen. That is the reason why we spoke about adventure in the very first place. He wants to know what lies ahead of the horizon. And that can only be experienced by a person who has a thirst for knowledge, who wants to get out of his comfort zone, who wants to know the things and ways, who wants to strategize, who wants to build a new future based on the uncertainty in the present day environment. And for that, there has to be a level of movement. To a certain level, he doesn't want to escape that very area of unexplored world, because in a voyage it's always about new horizons, new territories, new experiences, new people, and somewhere you have to mentally set your brain and adapt to the very notion of, all right, bring it on. I am not going to surrender to my old beliefs. I'm ready to adapt to the new. I'm ready to adapt to the unconventional. And that is what Ulysses has within himself. He definitely wishes to see himself in this very idea of new perspectives. That can only happen for a person who is filled with the inner desire of exploring new horizons. You can see his spirit of exploration in the very next course of expression, where he wants to show the depth and the energy that lied in his past life. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unbanished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life, life piled on life, were all too little and of one to me. Little remains, but every hour is saved from the eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things, and while it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this grey spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. It's very interesting to see the way in which he describes the notion of shining and rusting. When do you rust? The metal rusts when you are not using it at optimum usage. It is stagnation that brings the rusting. And that is what Ulysses doesn't want. He doesn't wish to stagnate by just surrendering to what the conventional world wants him to follow. There is a spirit in him that wants to just do the unexpected. Every little bit of him, knowing the fact that his life is short now, he is nearing his last phase. That is the old phase of his life. He knows that this is coming to an end. But there is still, even in this dying, frail body that he possesses at present, he is still not ready to give it away. He describes it like a sinking star. Even when a star has to give away its luminosity, it doesn't end with a dim light. This is why we call them a shooting star. Many Bollywood movies are made with this notion of shooting star. Take a look at it. If you happen to see the glimpse of it, you should make a wish, because that's the dying time of the star. This is where your wishes may come true. So make it with your heart's deepest desire. This is the reason why it's important to understand this notion of not giving away the desire you possess. He wants to do the unconventional. It is interesting to see the representation of this character, and that becomes even more interesting when we compare him to the previous write up that was written by another poet in the past, and the name of the poet is Dante, who also writes about Ulysses. And he talks about how Ulysses, while he was making his sail and passed the pillars of Hercules, despite the warning that was given to him that the mankind should not venture further than this particular landmark at the Strait of Gabrieta, but he crosses this forbidden point and meets his end because things that are fated, if disaster is there in your fate, it will happen. But even the disaster that was expected to be in his life did not scare Ulysses in that particular part where Dante wrote about him. But in Ulysses' poem, we do not see a reference of this uncertain future. Maybe there is no prophecy here, but that doesn't let or allow our character to do away with what he wishes to do in his life. This is why it's almost suggestive to see in the lines when he says, "It may be that the gulfs will wash us down." Yes, the future may be uncertain and it may be full of threat and danger and hard and coarse movement. But that should not let the spirit die. This is what a warrior has in mind when he is out to fight for his country. He's not concerned about the number. He's not concerned about the ammunitions and the weapons that the enemy is going to use. All he has in his mind is his spirit and the motive with which he is fighting. That is the spirit with which Ulysses is living. This is the reason why, when now we compare him to the very notion of what does he wish to do with the remaining years that he has left, is that we get to see a very interesting side of him. We see that he is aware that he is growing old, and every passage of time is making him realize of this factor. This acknowledgement can be noticed from the very starting of the lines. And he is surrendering to this notion by saying that eternal silence of death, that means that is something that is inevitable for us. We have to acknowledge it, we have to accept it. To a similar level, it shows that during Tennyson's times, which witnessed a decline of romantic poets, primarily as the French Revolution had destroyed the spirit and motivation of the people, he also wishes to leave his kingdom to his son Telemachus, who has grown up into a young man. He wishes to say that it doesn't matter if my time is up for the past actions that I was doing, but I am not ready to surrender to these dictates of this world. And he justifies it now by talking about the true person who holds this responsibility better than him, which is his son Telemachus. Let us try to know, why does he give a reference of his son Telemachus in this particular poem? Why is he a better king than Ulysses himself? And why does he make a reference of him in the poem? Let us listen to the lines first before we make our very conclusion of this fact. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle. Well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labor, by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duty, decent not to frail, in offices of tenderness and pay, meet adoration to my household gods. When I am gone, he works his work, I mine. To a certain level, Ulysses realizes that he is not right for his present administration. And this can be made very clear when he talks about the beautiful qualities his son possesses. These qualities represent the true administrative traits a person needs to possess in a savage world. Should you be rough and tough as a warrior when you are following administration? Is that the right course? They always say diplomacy is the mode of reforming people. You cannot be very harsh because if that be the case, then history has it. William Shakespeare wrote a very famous play on the hero Julius Caesar, who people called ambitious because he was straightforward, honest, and did not mince his words. Did it work in his favor? Not really. That is what made his conspirators conspire and do the very treachery of killing him for they established for him, which is ambitious and a tyrant, selfish and does not care about his province. A leader has to be mellow to the people who are constantly stressed about the uncertain life that they have to lead. A leader has to tell them about the benefits with which he can make or ensure a balance for the nation so that it is able to work efficiently under his governance. And Telemachus as a child has been groomed in this manner. He knows the soft code because he has not undergone the level of turmoil and stress Ulysses had to undergo during his adventures. Where Ulysses knows the language of vast level of agility, energy, enthusiasm that requires the mind to constantly be in a fast paced mode, coming up with new resolutions and new ideas. The role of administration in his empire today requires a person with balance, who believes in the power of patience, because patience is the only way with which you can govern and ensure you are able to make them calm and mellow. This is what Telemachus is definitely capable of doing. That is the reason why the father describes his son as mild. He is loved by everybody, and his good nature will make these rugged people mild. They will understand well with his soft and delicate mode of expression. You have to be soft spoken. Nobody likes the voice and the tone of an arrogant person. People want to understand you, but they would do it better if you speak to them with a tone that values them and yet makes them understand the other side of the story. He will be able to subdue them with this special skill. That is the skill of a good orator who knows that modesty in tone is the mode to come up with a good, efficient dictatorship and ensure a good administration. This is why he says that a man like him is someone who will make sure that the gods are happy with whatever he has to offer, because he will have a level of stability within himself. He would not be running for his errands like Ulysses used to run constantly to meet his ends. That is the reason why his son makes the right representation than him. He is the one who will follow his duty and be able to do things that he is good at. To a certain level, Tennyson here describes the very essential mode of a person's nature. We all have a different nature, and it's important to understand which nature is well suited for the kind of environment that we like to be in. Where a person who is adventurous, he cannot follow the mundane course of life, which is why he would find it very difficult to adjust in a world of this sort. He would not mind sacrificing himself or his life or dealing with a casualty if life has that for him, because his nature is meant for that uncertainty. Whereas a person who is stable in a stable environment will have to have a similar mode of representation to make sure that the people who create mischief, people who create disaster around him, can be tamed well by the sheer patience and calm that person holds. That is the reason why this poem, to a certain level, describes us about the very essence of different personalities. Where one is calm, the other is completely filled with the energy to strike the chord every time, to have the movement always, to think of the unconventional always. This is what leads us to our next question, that is, whom does Ulysses invite for his final adventure? If he doesn't want to be with his wife that he calls old, he doesn't want to be with his son who he says is soft spoken, who are the people that he would want to be with? And why are these people important for him? Let us have a quick listen to the lines before we make our conclusion. There lies the port. The vessel puffs her sail. There gloom the dark, broad seas. My mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with the frolic welcome took the thunder and sunshine and opposed free hearts, free foreheads. You and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks, the long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek the newer world. Push off and sitting well in order smite. The sounding furrows for my purpose holds, to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulls will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now the strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong and will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. By the concluding note, we can understand that Ulysses is not ready to surrender. He knows the kind of people he would want to set for his voyage again. And who are these people? The very people who had accompanied him in the past. And he describes them as my mariners. These are the people who can understand the struggle, the trials that they had been through together, the strategies that they had to establish in order to make their course easy. This is what he wishes to do with him. He wishes to explore the similar journey that he did in the past. He calls these people the free hearts because they are not bound by any notion of the civilized world. He calls their foreheads free because they do not think in rigid structure as the society wishes them to think as. These are people who have their own frame of mind, who have to come up with unconventional ideas of their own to sustain in the unconventional world that they are leading their life in. These are the people for whom, in spite of realizing that the life is not really the same, even then, these are the people with whom he wants to establish the very notion of exploration yet again. And he knows that this exploration will lead him to a newer world, a world where they will be able to experience any side of the coin. It can be a bright side where they get to experience and get a chance to meet their old fellow people that they had a chance to meet in the past. The famous leader mentioned here is Achilles, the mightiest warrior. They feel that this man can be a person they can come in tune with again. Or they may also see the uneventful things that Enid had spoken about in his work regarding the danger that lies in a certain course. But Ulysses is ready for both these challenges. He is ready to go and flip to any side of the coin. He is not asking for one side. He is ready to understand both the sides of the coin. That is what life is for an adventurer. You don't decide your position, your fate decides your position. And you have to acknowledge both the favorable and also the unfavorable aspects that a adventurous life has in store for you. He knows that a heart with energy has the ability to serve every aspect of life that we wish to. This poem reminds me of a contemporary movie that I happened to watch, and it's called The Intern, that features the actress Anne Hathaway and a very established old veteran actor, Robert De Niro. What's beautiful about this particular movie, just like this poem Ulysses, is that the protagonist in the movie, just like Ulysses, is an old man who has retired. He has nothing to do in his life. His wife had recently died, and he's trying to adjust with the new ways with which he has to work and adapt through a retirement phase. He has tried everything: yoga, travel, tried to make a routine pattern for himself. But has the course really served him? Not really. This is where a new opportunity and ray of light comes for this actor, Robert De Niro, where he gets the chance to restart all over again. A leading website launches an advertisement where old, retired individuals can serve the company as interns based on their past experiences. Retailing is the new industry that has recently evolved in the movie. So there are new brands that are launching their segments through online websites. And this is where Robert De Niro thinks that this is what I want to do. I have the music still left in me, and I'm not going to give it up. This is where he decides to be the intern. What's interesting is to see the bond that he shares with the actress Anne Hathaway. It's a beautiful equation that they share, how the experiences of Robert De Niro of the past help him to adjust with the present scenario. That shows that even when you're old, you can still be of use in the environment that you have always loved to be in, which is why I love this movie the most. And I urge all of you who are listening to this lecture to take a look at this movie so that you can get a hint of what Tennyson was trying to establish through his poem. This is very important in order to understand the great level of references that he has given, why he has given these people, and the purpose that these references hold for a person who wants to do the unexpected. Like the reference Achilles. Why does he mention this person? Because this is the guy who was known for a certain level of greatness. He was able to do so much. They say that this man was known for his strength, and that's where his strength lied. Nobody could defeat Achilles because of the great strength he possessed as a warrior. Achilles was given a famous shield that could defend him from any kind of calamity that could possibly be cast on him. And that is the reason why we understand the very notion with which Ulysses is trying to establish that age is never a barrier. Age does not determine your role in the society. Even for women, now age is just a number. You have to get married on 16, and you have to have kids by so and so. Rules, conventions. Should we abide by it if your desire is for something else? Men, you need to have a career at this age. You have to plan a family at this age. Is that really a rule now? With the passage of time, conventionals of the old are breaking because we all are living by the spirit with which our desire tells us to follow. We hold the key to our heart, not the society. And that is what Tennyson is trying to establish beautifully through this poem, which I hope you people have also sensed through. So enjoy the poem, and I hope today's lecture has been rich and insightful for you. I hope to get more of these lectures in the coming time. So this is all for today. Have a great day. And this is me, Karishma. Until we meet next time. Take care.